Hello, I'm Deborah Epstein, and welcome to Life is Art Conscious Creativity Summit Season 2. Harness your power, unleash your creativity, and embody your dream life. Today's guest is Bodhi Simpson. Bodhi is an art therapist from Maine. Her art therapy practice is conscious art therapy. Bodhi is also the co-founder of Vast Horizons Center for Personal Growth, co-creator of expressive wellness workshops, and co-creator of the Wisdom of the Heart deck. Additionally, she is also a student at Wisdom University working toward a PhD in wisdom studies. She provides individual and group sessions, workshops, trainings, and retreats that incorporate creative expression and work with imagination, intuition, and metaphor. And here she is. Welcome, Bodhi. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom.
Hello, Deborah. Thanks so much for having me.
So would you mind just sharing a little bit about your background? I mean, I loved reading your bio and all the things that you're up to. And like, you know, as I'm reading, I'm like, yes, this is why she's a perfect guest for this summit, because what you're creating in the world is what the summit is really about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was really excited when you reached out just to meet other creatives that are really kind of along the similar path of bringing consciousness to creativity. And, my path was that I found my profession in the field of art therapy. And I also, as I was engaging in this work, I really wanted to dive deeper into the field of energy medicine. And as I started playing with those two fields, I again went forward to study for my PhD in wisdom studies, which is really just learning ancient wisdom traditions and how ancient wisdom traditions have facilitated creativity as healing since the beginning of time. And so I'm really enjoying working on weaving those together. So that's basically kind of what brings me to the work that I'm doing today.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's what I was really struck by in, reading about you and seeing what you're up to in the world is I'm a shamanic practitioner too, and that's a very creative practice. And what drew me to it was like this natural progression from being an artist and then moving into healing and then seeing like, oh my gosh, here is this huge vehicle of creative expression that brings consciousness in and spirituality in, which like it's that perfect vehicle for weaving that tapestry together. And you're coming at it from a different sort of angle, but you're including that philosophy and truth, in my opinion, truth into what you're creating.
Yeah, I feel like so much of what we experience is deeper than words. And so, what I found when I first became a therapist is that we do a whole lot of talking and really trying to analyze and understand. But so much of it for me was for all of us, is a felt experience, is invisible. And so, yeah, so I love this world because we can start to bring the invisible realm into the visible realm so then we can, work with energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like one of the truths too is like everything is energy in the universe. All matter is energy, right? And then everything starts out as energy before it comes into form. So it makes sense that like we want to learn how to grow our imagination or use our imagination and start like forming a language for some of those experiences that we have that is beyond form.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, let's kind of dive a little bit more into consciously creating and how you define that for yourself.
Consciously creating.
Mm.
So yeah, I really agree with what you're saying about everything being energy. And I really feel like a lot of us, we just get stuck in these patterns and these beliefs and these way of being and almost like on autopilot, kind of unconsciously going about our lives. And so as I started doing this work for myself and taking time to develop a daily creative practice, I really found that I could start to really see the energy that was creating my life. And then I could start to play with the energy that I wanted to be creating in my life. Um, and what I realized with clients is that, through art therapy process, so art is healing, but I should just say that in art therapy, the healing happens in the context of a therapeutic relationship. So with art therapy, we are really a guide, support you in learning how to express yourself creatively. Many people just really don't know how to do that, or they feel like it's juvenile, or they feel like they just were never good at it. And so that's a big part of it, just helping people remember how to be human and how to be um, curious and open. And and then the next piece, once they've really found their comfort in that expression, which I should also say doesn't, most of my clients are not art, don't consider themselves artists. You know, it's really just helping people realize this is part of the human experience. And then what we do is we learn how to build a relationship to what we've created and really kind of feel into the energies and the colors and the images and learn how to really have the work that we've created speak back to us.
Mhm.
And you know, so it's just really fascinating work to be aware of the energies that are creating your life, to play with the energies that you'd like to be creating, to use creativity to clear away, you know, what we are ready to release now that we're aware of it, and then using creativity to feel into new possibilities and kind of try them out. Um, so yeah, so it's just a realm. It kind of reminds me of like when I'm working with people, like we're on this kind of big play date together, and we're getting curious, and we're working with really heavy themes and really heavy um, issues and challenges. But because we are engaging in the creative process, so and using our ability to get curious about it, we develop a witness perspective where we can separate emotionally from that heavy stuff, and we can, I guess, gain a clear understanding once we can see it and we're not pulled into it. So we're not stuck in the mud so much, we're kind of out of it a little bit. So there's
Mhm.
just so many ways that we can use our creativity for consciousness.
Yeah, yeah, I love what you're saying too, and that, and I'm like watching your gestures because it's like as you're talking, it's like I can see how you're magically kind of weaving through all the things that you do. And I just like, I think what's striking me about what you're talking about is that emotional piece and how there's, not just there is blocks around our imagination and our creativity. But I think it stems from like how we are all kind of raised to suppress our emotions.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just kind of it's really important, I think, to dive there first.
It's so important. And I feel like most of us just weren't taught how to feel comfortable expressing ourselves in this way. Like, I even remember when I was a little girl, I always loved creating art. It was fun, even if it was just outside with the leaves or whatever. But I remember, you know, expressing something really heavy or something that was in my heart and really not having people to witness it and to, like, I never had the experience of having somebody kind of join with me and look with me, look at, you know, there's this whole missing piece with art that you can really start to engage with if you have somebody you trust, whether it's an art therapist or a conscious community group or a close friend or, you know, a talk therapist. But really what you've created is deserving of being honored and being witnessed and being validated. And I feel like that's just a huge missing piece in the art world. You know, even in, you know, I think of even my own kids and when they take their art classes, and it reminds me of my own experience where it's really to get a grade. It's like, okay, did you learn this skill? Did you get a grade? No, you didn't, you know, and I see them come home sometimes and like, oh, I didn't get an A. I didn't do it right, but I really wanted to do this, you know.
Mhm.
I feel like in our society, for whatever reason, it hasn't really been mainstream to just like honor and appreciate and get curious about every expression
Mhm.
that comes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really important point too. Like, because as you were talking about that, I was like, yeah, I remember my experience, and it used to like really get me so mad. Like, how can you give me a grade on that? It's expression, and it gets us into this guarding. And so even in a group, like there has to be a huge element of safety that is created in that container for people to want to be able to share. And even then, safety is really subjective as to what, like, you can create the safest container in the world, and depending on the person, it just may not feel safe to them, you know and yeah, I think there's this piece of like getting to know the culture of the person, the background of the person, so you can really meet them right where they are with their art.
Exactly. And I feel like even the word art, you know, I feel like a lot of them, you know, a lot of people that I've worked with, you know, they'll say, well, I'm not creative. I don't, you know, I can't do that. I can't paint a picture. And, you know, we'll talk about, you know, creativity is how you express yourself in your life. You know, it's not not about, painting something that's going to go on the mantle. It's about the expression, the process. And I just feel like it's so important, and it's just something we don't talk about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like more process, less art.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like that's such a great metaphor for life. It's like if we could just learn to move through our lives and express freely and love ourselves through it, and let go of our attachments to how our life is supposed to be, or how our creation is supposed to look, or what other people are going to want for our creation to be. And yeah, that's what I love about conscious creativity as well, is that, and in art therapy, anything that you create is really just a metaphor for the larger themes in your life. So if we can look at everything as a mirror, then it's life changing, really.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, because I know just as I paint, like, stuff will come up and I'll notice like how I'm feeling about something, and it always, like, I think that's what keeps me coming back, whether I'm creating a painting or I'm just, like, doing a morning, like, opening prayer sort of painting, where there's no impact on it. It's not going to be seen anywhere. And it's just like an exercise or part of my practice. And it's like, it's so interesting when you start tuning into the body and what the body's feeling. It's like, it's almost, I could say it's like a low impact way of seeing what you're holding on to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So powerful, though.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. And, like, I love how you're talking about the witness piece of that. And I'd love you to kind of talk into that a
Mhm.
little bit more, because I feel like that is, I don't know what more we can really say about that, but there is such an importance, I believe, in that witnessing, because we're talking about things that have gone unseen, unnoticed, and kind of in the shadows. So I think we're kind of diving into the shadow a little bit here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I feel like I agree with what you were saying earlier, where we're in our culture, we're just kind of taught to suppress, or in our families, to suppress the truth of how we actually feel, and, allowing space. So one of the reasons I love using creativity in my meditation is because I struggled so much with meditation without creativity. I would bring my awareness back to the present moment, back to my breath, and think about groceries. And, I felt like really using creativity really helped me to focus in a much more conscious way. It allowed me to really experience that flow state where I was just completely immersed in the enjoyment of what I was doing and not thinking about time or even who I was as a person. And what this does, the artwork becomes the container for our wholeness to come. And it's really about just allowing space to really notice what comes, whether it's coming onto the page or whether it's coming up as you're creating. We're clearing our minds, we're releasing heaviness, and we're honoring it. And yeah, it reminds me of the yin yang. The witness is kind of stepping back and seeing the whole picture. We are whole. Life is super hard, super sad, and it's super beautiful. And we have so much to be grateful for at the same exact time. So I
Mhm.
feel like that's the piece with the witness perspective. It's, you know, like when clients come in for therapy, they are often, kind of stuck in one perspective, and the creativity brings in a new perspective where you can witness it and see beyond the issue and say, oh my gosh, there it is. I see the pathway. I didn't see it before. But we can't see it when we're in it. When we're in the fog, we have to find a way to expand beyond
Mhm.
challenge. So.
That's beautiful. So beautiful. So you have a little practice that you're going to guide us through, or guide me through, and everyone else gets to play along too at their leisure and pace, and being in the virtual world that we're in right now.
Yes.
Up for that?
Yes, I would love to share a practice with everybody. I was talking with Deborah before we started recording today about, there's so many really cool practices out there, so many that I would love to learn and that are super interesting and that seem really complicated and that I don't always understand. I often buy cool creativity books and I try to follow the directives all the way through, and I find myself not really getting it or knowing if I'm doing it right. So today I really wanted to start in a really basic way to teach you how to hold space. If you don't already know this, some of you guys may be very comfortable with this process. And if you are, great. It's always helpful to practice more. But for those of you that maybe haven't entered into this process before, yeah, just get curious and see what it feels like. So to begin, Deborah, I don't know if you have a piece of paper handy, just maybe to write on, or you could use maybe just any paper you have on your desk there.
Okay.
And grab a pencil or a pen. And what I often like to do, just to help people to kind of get out of their heads a little bit, is just do a little bit of free flow writing. So for right now, I'm going to invite everybody just to do a little bit of writing. Feel free to pause the video while you're doing your writing until it feels done. And also when we do our creative process, since it's recorded, just feel free to pause the video so that you can engage in however long you need to. And the other thing I should say, Deborah, is you mentioned safety. So I would also like to say, before you engage in these practices, you don't want to just be sitting in the kitchen with the kids running around and your husband just getting home from work, or you want to really find a safe, sacred space in your home where you can, be honest with yourself about what's true and not worry about somebody barging in, and, turn your cell phone off and maybe light a candle or get some tea or a comfy blankie. That is a piece that's really important in this work. So yeah, I would just invite you guys to take a few moments and maybe just write about the theme of flow in your own life. So you're just taking a moment and maybe writing about the areas that you're aware of that are feeling blocked, or maybe even noticing the areas in your life where you feel like you've really needed to force things or needed to feel control over. And maybe just doing a little writing as well around, in your life, what do you enjoy? Where is the flow for you? What are the things that you do where you completely lose track of time? And I'm just going to continue on for the sake of time today. So for those of you that have plenty to write, definitely pause the video. But I find in my own practice, it is very helpful to do some writing before I do my creating, because my mind, I'm just, so busy in life. We're constantly getting text messages and having emails and taking care of the kids and getting the groceries, and there's so much to do. And, the mind tends to be a really strong muscle that wants to take over, and often is what blocks us. So kind of like taking your mind to the gym, kind of wearing it a little bit, so that we can really consciously come into our bodies and go beyond the thinking mind. So when you're done with your writing, I'm going to have you just put that aside. And the materials I'm recommending for today are watercolors, but really we can enter into the flow state, again, anytime we are fully immersed in a process that we're enjoying, that we're present. So if you try today's exercise and you're just like, I don't really like watercolors, feel free to try pastels or collaging, or any creative process. So what you would need is some watercolor paper. I do recommend, if you have larger, like 11 by 14, large is nice for this practice because it's expansive and open. Or you could have several pieces of smaller paper, just something so you can continue your flow. And definitely a cup of water, paper towel. If you have larger watercolor brushes, those are nice, but any size will do. I'm also using watercolor cakes, really affordable. You might have liquid watercolors or tube watercolors, any are fine. And for today, I have the iridescent. I don't know if you guys have tried those before, but I really enjoy the sparkle that happens. And then for an extra little bit of enjoyment, I do have today some watercolor pencils, or watercolor crayons are nice if you have them. You don't need them, but they just kind of add an extra element of fun. So before we begin in our creative practice, I'm just going to have everybody put their feet flat on the floor. And if you feel comfortable closing your eyes or just gazing softly down at the ground, and I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose till it almost hurts to breathe any deeper, and hold it. And then you're going to breathe down through your body and let your breath expand down beyond your body, down into the earth. And as you breathe out, I just invite you to consider bringing your awareness, any tensions you may be holding in your body, and just breathing into those, allowing yourself to feel a little bit heavier, a little bit more present in your body. And what I'd like to do is we're going to invite the element of water into our practice today. So I'd like you to bring your mind's eye into the awareness of the experience of water and just tuning in to what water feels like. You know, water is flowing. Water doesn't resist. Water goes where it wants to. It goes with the flow. And, you know, I think about 70% of the Earth's surface is water, and a large percentage of our bodies are made up of water. So the truth is that we are actually water. Our natural state is to flow. But because of things that we've been through in our lives and things we've been taught to try to control or force because maybe it needed to be that way to feel safe. But I'd like you to take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, just imagine breathing into the flow of the water. And maybe noticing any resistance you may be feeling in your body to flowing and just breathing into that. When you're ready, I'm going to have you just maybe rub your legs or give yourself a hug or caress your cheeks gently. Maybe curl up the sides of your mouth and be amused that we're doing this together today. When you're ready, you're going to open your eyes. And what I'd like you to do is, as we're creating, this is a creative meditation, we are going to be attuning ourselves to the frequency and the vibration and the flow of the element of water. Really practicing feeling into the experience of water and bringing in curiosity. So again, if you notice resistance, bringing yourself a little compassion and breathing into that, being okay, noticing that you're resistant and loving yourself anyway. And maybe even getting curious as you're creating to notice if there's any inspiration in your mind or any experiences in your body that will help you to understand if you've been moving forward in your life with the flow, with the current, or if you've been swimming against the current. So you're just noticing these subtle awarenesses. So what I'm going to invite you to do is just maybe take your brush and immerse it in the water and just kind of swirl it around. Just take a deep breath, and you might even practice becoming the water as you create with it, what that would feel like to extend yourself into the water. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start to heavily soak your watercolor paper with simply clear water. So water is life, and we are bringing life to this watercolor paper. We're enlivening it with water. And because we aren't adding any pigment yet, we have really total freedom to just express in whatever movements or shapes want to come on the page. Just remember staying present to the experience of water, noticing the resistance. If this is an uncomfortable process for you, we're not turning the video off. We are building a relationship to what that feels like to be uncomfortable. And once you have a good portion of your painting covered in water, what I'd like you to do now is grab your palette of colors. Maybe just take a few breaths in and out through your heart center. And as you look at your colors, just notice what colors really speak to your heart right now. Which colors really feel connected to you in some way. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the water you're going to put quite a bit of water on the colors that you choose, really, again, bringing life to the colors with your actions and your choices, allowing the water to soak in the pigment. So we're practicing consciously choosing our colors. And the reason we chose watercolors today is because we really don't have much control over them. We have control over where we place the water on the page and the colors that we are choosing, but we really must let go of control of what's going to happen when we begin to drop these pigments into the water-soaked paper. So what I'd like you to do is you're going to take the color pigment of your choice and getting curious, just like a 5-year-old who's maybe never watercolored before, just dropping in the corner of your brush and allowing the color pigment to expand and ripple out onto the page. And really, as you're breathing with the colors as they ripple out, maybe experience a flowing and an opening within your own being. The remembrance that there is so much in life that is really truly beyond our control. You know, we can control our choices, our actions, what we consciously dream about. But as we bring everything into the world, it's important to really let go of our attachment to how the flow is going to take it. And if you feel called to bring in other colors, what I'd like you to do is we're going to add another layer where you attune to the next color and notice what that color feels within you. You may drop it next to the colors that you've already put on here and see if there's any interaction between the colors. And again, just noticing what it may be reminding you of in your own life, what feelings it brings up. If you notice your page drying up, you can wet your brush and continue to wet the paper. And so for this practice, when I engage in this with my creative meditation, I tend to create for as long as it takes me to fill the page in a way that feels right. So I just follow my own sense of beauty. And I know that this is more about the process. I'm not worried about what it's going to look like or framing it or anything like that. And for an extra level of flow and playfulness, when you're ready, I invite you to take the water again and just again soak the colors, soak the page, what you've already painted. Again, bringing life and flow and letting go of our attachment to how it manifests. And at this moment, you can now look at your watercolor pencils, your watercolor crayons, attuning to the colors that you're curious about, or that you like, or that you don't like. And now you're going to just allow them to glide over your wet painting in a way that feels like free-form flow. Again, noticing how the colors feel and also the movements, and being present to what comes up within you. When I'm doing this for myself, sometimes I also, if there are heavy emotions that come up, I imagine as I'm creating, I imagine that I'm channeling these heavy emotions through my breath down my arm and onto the page. So really consciously facilitating catharsis or sense of release. And when you feel you followed your own sense of beauty and playfulness with this, then it's time to stop creating, and you put away all of your materials, clear your space. And you may want to wait till it's dry, you may not. The next step would be to, now we're going to step into the witness perspective, where when I've created something, I put it about 3 to 5 feet out from me so that I'm taking a little space. And then allowing a title or a phrase to come to you as you look at your creation without thinking about it, just whatever comes to you. Write that down. It might be in your journal, it might be on the page or on the back. And it's always helpful to put the date, because these practices, if you do choose to save them, it can be really helpful to look back and see where you're at. And the next level you could use in your meditation practice would be to sit with your creation, really get to that place where your mind is clear, you're present in your body, you have the experience of feeling open to what you've created without judging. And notice what it reminds you of. You might do some dialoguing in a journal. If there's a piece of this creation that calls to you in particular, you could cut a piece out, or you could use this whole piece. And the next level with that might be you would place it on your altar or in your conscious creating space, simply to serve as an anchor to remind you of the experience of flow. So I often use a lot of my creations just as that anchor to remind my physiology, because I created this with my heart and mind connected in a grounded way. And so just by simply looking at it, it speaks to your subconscious mind, anchoring this experience, speaks to your physical body. You might take a piece and hang it on your desk in your office. Might put a piece on the fridge. Sometimes I have clients put a piece in all the rooms, so that if they are feeling triggered, they can just remember to look at that one piece that they created consciously, which will allow them to remember. From young moms out there, put it in the bathroom. It's like the one place we have alone. But the other piece that I didn't talk about when we started is, as we engage in this creative flow process, music is a wonderful element to add to allow you to open creatively to the flow if you're feeling resistant or feeling blocked. But one thing I would like to say is that listen to your music before you play it, because people can sometimes think, great, I'll play some classical music. That's relaxing. But then if you guys have listened to classical music, there's a lot of classical music that's like really stressful and like, I don't know, it makes me feel like overwhelmed. So really find some flowing music where non-lyrical is best, because that, often lyrics will take us into the past and remind us of things, which is fine, but it can be helpful just to find really instrumental flowing music. So I guess the takeaway from this is remembering to make space to practice entering into the experience of flow in your own life, so that you can notice when you are attaching to an outcome of how something should be. You can notice the energy of when you are forcing. You can notice the energy of when you are really trying to control, and that this would be an anchor that would help you remember how to grow this experience of opening to flow. So you could practice this every day, or you can simply use your creation to remind you. And we can also grow our self-compassion through all of it. So yeah, there's a lot of different avenues to use this practice. So I hope this was helpful for everybody, just to maybe learn a way to open.
That was really great. Thank you for sharing that. As you were talking, I'm like still working on my piece, because I'm looking at it and I step back and I'm listening to you, then I look at it again, I'm like, ooh, there's something else I want to pull out. And yeah, it was really, I made it really, really wet so it was really wet for a long period of time. And I don't normally do that, because I really wanted to get into what you were saying, which was the flow and the wateriness and the letting go of control. And I guess I want to reiterate what you've said about, like, even if you've done this before, that let it be a new experience. Because obviously I've done stuff like this before, and this is what I love about it, because when you can let go and just like really allow that new experience, things come up. So mine's at a point that it's not going to drip if I hold it up. So yeah, this is what kind of came out. I started seeing this bird and this little shadow figure as you were like kind of wrapping up in front of it. And when you were guiding us in, and I'm not really sure what it is, I was feeling the flow of energy, but then I was feeling a block just outside of me. And so as I look at this image, I'm like, ooh, that little blue and orange figure in front of the bird is kind of like, to me, representative of what I was feeling. So I might dive into this a little bit more a little later when I have some time, because I want to investigate, because I am curious about what that energy is that I'm feeling out there,
Yes, I love what you're talking about. So yeah, you can take this to whatever level you want to. It could inspire you to create something else as well. Really, yeah, go deeper and deeper, as deep as you feel comfortable. And was there a title that came to you yet or not yet?
Actually, yeah, no words kind of came through, because actually when you were talking about giving it a name, I was asking it, and that's when the bird image kind of came out more. So
Ah,
yeah, so it's naming things is always a block around. I wouldn't call it a block. It just really like, yeah, it's not my first thought, or even second or third. Takes a while.
so in our art therapy practices, we often have people title their creation because the work is to open and express and see it, but then there's a whole nother level when we can bring meaning
Mm-hmm.
and bring awareness consciously. So I definitely encourage you to, which you will, I know you'll go deeper. This was a very quick practice, but yeah, just to continue to find the words to express, which sometimes it is deeper than words, but the words that resonate with. And I can just show you guys mine just so you have another example, but I
Great.
started with the blues. Oh, another thing you could do is just kind of tilt it around and play with the water drips. The blues for me was just like water, just playing with the element of water and feeling into the fact that we are water. And then when I got the pencils out, I started realizing, I just grabbed red and I realized I've definitely got a lot of anxiety and anger about many things happening in the world, injustices. And it was even just in this little brief experience with you guys, just bringing awareness to that, where I thought, oh, I'm going to be teaching about flow today. And I'm going to just show what this is like. But really, I'm glad you brought that up, Deb, just allowing the light and the dark to be seen and just get curious about it. And it isn't anything you have to even show anybody. It can be super private in your journal, in your safe space. You can share with people that you trust, or you can just let it be your own private experience. So just a different way of working. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely it's all about honoring the emotion, honoring yourself. And the emotional piece, there's so many layers to it, right? There's the emotion that's getting expressed, and then there's the emotion about how you feel about what's getting expressed, and then, all the layers of that as well.
Yes, and it's like, in order to dream into our new futures and new ways of being, this work has to be done first. We
Mhm.
first have to know what that experience of flow is like, and that what the energy is when we want to force something. And it's like it's so subtle, but at least for my own life, I realize, and being grounded, water's grounding. This practice is grounding. How do we learn how to find a place to springboard forward from? And this is just a nice practice to learn that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I loved how you kind of tied the body into that too, that being a body worker, that's one of the things I always, am aware of, and try to help people understand too, that we are like 80-90% water, that we're meant to flow. And yeah, it's all those things that happened to us as we were growing up that like block the flow. So just so
Exactly.
beautiful how it all weaves together and becomes really beautiful.
Yeah, and how beautiful when we can just like get together like this and just acknowledge the truth. This is just life. This is part of being human, and it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So I just wanted to also kind of tell the audience too that there's a free gift for them That's going to be below or next to the video, depending on what platform you're seeing this on. So would you like to share a little bit about what that is with the audience?
Yes, I touched on self-compassion just a little bit, but what you guys will receive is a PDF with some different self-compassion practices that I have used for myself, because I really find that in my work with clients, that's usually one of the biggest blocks, is that people in some way, there's a part of them that doesn't feel they're really worthy of healing or of really living the life that they would like to create. And so to me, self-compassion is kind of like a puzzle piece that's really important. So yeah, just some practices to deepen your work with learning how to resonate with the essence of self-compassion.
That sounds like a beautiful gift. Thank you for that. And I just want to tell the audience too that they can hop on over to the Conscious Creativity Circle, the Facebook group that we have. And if you're not a member, join. There should be a link somewhere around here too. And if you have any comments or questions for Bodhi, just tag her. If you want to show your work, please do. If you feel like like it's a safe environment and you want to get a little feedback or any guidance, just tag Bodhi in that, and I'm sure she'd be happy to hop in and answer
Yeah.
any questions.
Yeah, and definitely let us know if it was comfortable for you or uncomfortable. And if you have noticed, if you tend to be able to flow or if you do tend to swim against the current. That's all part of it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And yeah, I just want to thank you all for joining us today and playing along. And Bodhi, thank you so much for guiding us today and all of your beautiful wisdom and your gentleness. You're just such a gentle soul. And I just really appreciate you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Deb. Right back to you.
Thank you. And we will see you next time on Life is Art Conscious Creativity Summit. Until then, bye-bye.